in general, if you are going to have success in finance, it's brutal hours, it's a lot of hard work. I mean, there are some very, I would even dare to call them funny surveys from Goldman Sachs, etc., that kind of like just summarize the pressure, right? Being young, trying to succeed. If you have to talk about two concept, work-life balance versus work-life harmony, do you have a view on those two concepts, and has that evolved over the years?
Yeah, I mean, well, first of all, I would say that the finance industry, I think people think of it as more monolith than it really is. So, in terms of working on what we call sell side, working in investment banks such as Goldman versus what I do for work, it's very different. So you can definitely, if you have an interest in working in finance, I think people tend to look at, watch these TV shows like Billions or Industry and thinking, that's that's all there is to that industry. And I would say it's not really. It's one of the largest industries in the world. So you can definitely obtain work-life balance or work-life harmony in that industry. But it is one of those industries where you do get very engulfed in what you do, right? You're trying to constantly watch the market and try to beat everyone in the market. So you can get it can drown you in the sense that that's all that you care and think about 24/7, definitely. Um, but when it comes to, I mean, I can only speak for myself, right? I'm 33 now, and I think I've been one of those people that I'm sure you have, most of them that you have on your podcast, that people that are, we're very, we don't leave things to chance. We have sort of our plans, we have our ambitions, and then we go for them, and we really want to reach certain goals in life. And Carpe raps about planning your life in a Excel spreadsheet. Now, I've definitely been one of those people. I still probably am one of those people. I don't leave anything to chance. I would argue that I don't have the privilege of leaving things to chance either. I think, when you hear people like, oh, and then I just applied for that job and I got it and now I love it. Like I was not one of those people. I would set a target and then try to reach that target. That's kind of been my life. But I think now I'm at this place in my life where, and you talk about work-life harmony. I think I'm trying to find that, I guess. I think I'm going from building resume to building character, which for me entails trying to find out who I've been, instead of kind of where I'm going, trying to be like, who am I as a person? What do I enjoy doing? Um, what do I care about? What kind of issues, do I solve as a person? Like, what makes me happy? What enriches my life, essentially? And so, yes, I think, if there's something that I want your listeners to sort of come away with this conversation is that at some point, doing those things is really important, but at one point, take, rest and sort of, harvest what you've reached. And, maybe you're on autopilot for now, and maybe you to go forward, in the future, but try to go on autopilot occasionally when it comes to your work, so you can focus on, your life and becoming the person you want to be personally as well, right?
Yeah. I find it to be a very interesting topic because if you go on the route that there's a work-life balance, that also implies that you have a trade-off to make, right? So there's a scale to be made here. So, but if you go the harmony route, maybe you become more resilient because obviously you can't control the finance markets. So if the finance markets is going to dominate your life and well-being, it's probably just a matter of time until you're going to have some very bad months, and then it can spiral, right? So without going into too much detail, can you sort of share some of the moments where you have felt like, okay, now I need to rest or find other hobbies or other interests, and how you have balanced that in your life working in New York?
Yeah, I mean, it's a very good, especially because New York is just one of those places where everyone around you is sort of the best at what they do. And you want to become the best at what you do because of that. Um, I think in Norway, the benefit is that we do have the privilege of being able to find balance, find that harmony as we're referring to, that because we can, leave work a little bit earlier and stuff like that. So yeah, it becomes an identity defining thing, what you do for work 100%. I would say, 2020 was a hard year for everyone. And it was also a year that I think a lot of people reflected on, especially what they do for work, just because, and you do see this great, the great resignation. And I think the reason is that you spend a lot of time alone, you spend a lot of time away from your office. So you really get to focus on what is it that I do day to day, and do I actually like what I do day to day? Does it enrich my life? So yeah, you had like a great resignation, but I think 2020 was really hard for me too. But I think 2021 was definitely, this year has been very defining in the sense that, I mean, it's hard to not get personal, but I think people like myself, we want to plan, you can plan education and you can plan your career in a spreadsheet. You can find targets that you can reach, but when it comes to your personal life, you can't. You don't know when you're going to find who you're going to be with. You don't know if you're going to be a parent, if you want to be, when you can, if there's a deadline, which it is as a woman. And I think my year now that I'm early 30s, I think this is when I've started realizing that, there are certain things that you can't plan. And there are certain things that you thought, I pictured my life at 33 when I was younger, and I thought I was somewhere else than I am. And you can make that ruin you or stress you out, or it can make you say, okay, I wasn't where I wanted to be at 33, but maybe I am at 35, or I'm redefining what I want to be or where I want to be, and try to not, have that mentality of Joneses, as you say in the US, right? Like, oh, by the time I'm this age, I want to be engaged. And then by the time I'm this age, I want to have one kid, or, now it's time to buy, I moved from an apartment to a house, and I think, or have a dog and a Volvo. And, I think you as a person have to decide, what is most important to you? Is it important to you to kind of follow the recipe of life the way that you are raised to follow it? Or do you kind of try to take life as it comes and enjoy that you're alive and that you're healthy, and then everything else is sort of sprinkles on a Sunday? And I think maybe 2021 for me was the latter, right? To know that I was one of the people who, had a place to live, who didn't lose my job, who wasn't essential worker, who didn't die of, who didn't, knock on wood, know anyone who did, so everything else that life throws at you is sprinkles on a Sunday. And I think that will make you mentally more resilient. And that's definitely what, I'm trying to preach that to myself, but I think that's really important to have in mind, especially for younger people like us.